Good morning. My name is Catherine Davis, and I am the president of the Restoration Project, which is a pro-life, pro-family, pro-education organization, and I am so delighted that you all have joined me here today. We are here outside of our state capitol to reveal some of the hidden secrets about abortion in Georgia. April Chapman, would you come?
Good morning. My name is April Chapman. I'm a small business owner, a wife, a mom, and I'm a host of the Standard of Truth podcast. I'm here today to expose the ugliness of clinical baby murder that happens in our state that no one wants to talk about. It's real easy to glamorize the idea of killing an image bearer in the womb when you're told that it's going to be quick and relatively painless and you'll be back to normal in no time. Well, that wasn't the case with me. Over 20 years ago, I found myself in a ghetto, dirty, run-down, nasty abortion clinic on Old National Highway right here in Atlanta, Georgia. Despite the horror that I experienced that day, you need to hear about the conditions of the facility that willfully and illegally, probably still to this day, accepted taxpayer-funded funds and Medicaid to allow women to have clinical abortions. I was escorted back to a relatively large room, very, very dirty, waiting for my name to be called. I filled out the customary intake forms, and then I was told that, here, just take these pills and come on back when we call your name. No one explained to me the medications that I was taking, and anytime you would ask any questions, answers would be really short, sweet, and to the point. Eventually, I was told that the pill that I took was a muscle relaxer for a surgical abortion. Naively, I thought that surely there must be more that's going to be given. They had no plans in my mind to keep me wide awake, but naively, that mindset quickly wore off once my name was called and I'm escorted back to the death room. Yes, I reject using Lucifer's language, so I'm calling that room the death room, because that is what actually happened in that room and what almost happened to me. Little was explained about what was about to happen next, but I was told to place my legs in a stirrup, and without any explanation or warning, the physician begins the abortion while I am wide awake, seeing, feeling, and hearing everything. All of the sights, all of the sounds, all of everything, including my screams, could be heard. It took 2 nurses to hold me down as I tried to escape off the procedure table. No anesthesia was given besides this muscle relaxer. I'm wide awake and I feel everything. The scraping, the pulling, the suction, I felt it all. My paid executioner was unusually harsh, telling his assistants to hold her still while I steadily scream and scoot further away from their grip. Eventually it ends and I'm expected to walk into the waiting room, and the most agonizing and traumatic experience of my life is over, or so I thought. Well, it wasn't over. I found myself almost 48 hours later, bleeding extensively, and rushed to DeKalb Medical Center, where I'm now told that I have to have an emergency D&C because an incomplete surgical abortion was completed. I'm immediately rushed into surgery, and the remaining fetal tissue is removed. My abortionist never called me. No representative from their office ever checked on me. And subsequent, the abortionist ends up serving time in prison for Medicaid fraud, has his medical license stripped from him, only to be let out and given the opportunity to murder more babies and injure more women. No one likes to hear these stories. No one wants to talk about the horrors of baby murder. And no one definitely wants to talk about the standard of care, the conditions of the facilities, or the amount of illegal activity that goes on in this industry. My abortionist was sentenced to 4 years in prison for Medicaid fraud, stripped of his medical license, only to have the state of Georgia covertly and quietly give it back to him with no public notice given, and he is still practicing medicine to this day. The proper public notice was never given, and this covert act demonstrates more about Georgia's medical regulators caring more about protecting fellow physicians' livelihoods than protecting the public. By God's grace, I did not die that day, and it's a miracle that my womb was preserved. The Lord's been incredibly gracious to me, and I now have 4 image bearers years later that I now call my children. Many women do not have this testimony. I am blessed. Babies are still murdered in this state, and women are still being harmed and fatally impacted by clinical abortions despite our state having a heartbeat bill. We need to recognize personhood in this state. We need to recognize personhood because the baby I murdered over 20 years ago is a person. He or she was a person. The weight and gravity and horror of this industry, we need to stop trivializing it and minimizing it for the sake of money, convenience, and political advancement. We must stop child sacrifice in this state, and we must uncover the horrors of baby murder and tell these stories. Because the ones that are not alive, they cannot speak. No one is advocating for them. They were completely defenseless, and both the moms and the babies need to have their stories heard. Thank you.
April's story is one that we know, but there are many more like April across the state, and we want to hear their stories. So I've begun an email, and I invite any woman in Georgia who has been hurt in Georgia to email me at hurtinga@proton.me. That's hurtinga@proton.me. What we heard, there's no regular inspection of our facilities, so we don't know how many of our facilities are in that same condition that April just spoke about.